that idea about this one. Okay. So at least you should have idea about this. I already covered this, but I'm starting this. So this is the maxilla, second largest bone of the face. Just having a revision. This is the infraorbital foramen, so which forms a boundary for the dissections. Okay, this is the frontal process of maxilla, which articulates with the nasal bone, and this is the infraorbital margin. This is the zygomatic process. So there are four processes, that is frontal process, zygomatic process, alveolar process, and palatine process. So this is the palatine process of the maxilla, and this is a frontal process, and this is the nasal crust. This is the alveolar process. As you could see, if you see the attachment of different muscles, canine fossa, what is the muscle attached here? It is an important point. Levator anguli oris, LAU. Levator anguli oris, canine fossa. And this is the depressor septum muscle that is attached over here. Next, it is the buccinator muscle that is attached to the lateral part of this maxilla from the tuberosity to till here. So you could see these are the molars and these are the premolars that are there here. Once again, zygomatic process. This is the nasal crust that you could see. This is a nasal notch. So when you have that, this particular aperture is called a pyriform aperture in the maxilla. And you should have an idea about the posterior surface is in contact with the infratemporal fossa. So this is the infratemporal fossa. Wherever the finger is there, infratemporal fossa. I'm not going to details, but just being like that. Wherever the teeth are there, that is the alveolar process. This is the alveolar process, as they say. You see the medial side, medial wall, you can see the maxillary sinus, and this is the ethmoidal crust, medial meatus, inferior concha. This is the nasal crust. This is the tuberosity. So, what is this tuberosity? Importance of this tuberosity is tuberosity forms the boundary for the posterior part, as you could see. So, tuberosity forms the boundary for the posterior part. As you can draw a line from here to here, and whatever is there in front of this tuberosity will become the cheek. And this is the ramus of the mandible, wherein you can see that medial pterygoid attachment deeply, and this is superficial head of the medial pterygoid, as you could see over here, ramus of the mandible. From maxilla to this one, it is going like this. That is the deep head of medial pterygoid. And once again, if you see this bone like as it is, so this is a frontal process of maxilla. This is the infraorbital margin. So orbit is forming the roof of this particular maxilla. So this is the zygomatico-alveolar crust. This is the canine fossa, as I told you. So levator anguli oris is the origin for this. This is the anterior nasal spine. So anterior nasal spine, from here to here you draw a line. That is the anterior epistaxis. This will become the posterior epistaxis. These are the alveolar process where teeth are attached. And this is the body of the maxilla, as you could see here. And this is the zygomatic process attachment. And once again, if you have an idea about all these things, so this is the hiatus semilunaris, as you could see here, and then this is the opening of nasolacrimal duct in the inferior meatus, as you know that. Okay, and then this is the opening of the frontal anterior ethmoids and maxillary sinus, and this is the sphenoid sinus that is opening into sphenoethmoidal recess. And if you take it with relation with the septum, as you could see, this is the maxillary sinus, antrum of Highmore, 15 ml is the volume of this one. Okay. Opening into the middle meatus, and behind this will be the pterygopalatine fossa. So behind the maxilla will be the pterygomaxillary fissure. So pterygoid process, maxilla, pterygomaxillary fissure, which leads to pterygopalatine fossa. So pterygopalatine fossa laterally communicates with the infratemporal fossa. Medially communicates with the nasal cavity. Posterior part of the nasal cavity. This is the frontal process of the maxilla, as you could see here. And different muscles that are there here, levator, labia superioris and zygomaticus major is attached over here, rhizorius. Okay, depressor anguli oris. I told you the earlier one, this is depressor anguli oris, and this is orbicularis oris, just for a recollection. And you see inferior view, so you can see the alveolar processes, and this is the palatine processes. This is the horizontal plate, this is the perpendicular plate of palatine bone. This is one bone, and this is other bone, perpendicular plate of palatine bone. So this is the pterygoid fossa. That is, this is the medial pterygoid plate, and this is the lateral pterygoid plate. This is the vomer, posterior part of the septum. This is the choana, posterior part of the nose. This is the medial pterygoid plate. And zygomatic process attachment is over here, as you know that this is the maxilla, and this is the zygomatic process. Okay, I told you. So ZF suture, okay, ZM suture and ZT suture. This is zygomatic bone, zygomatic frontal suture, zygomatic maxillary, and zygomatic temporal suture, as you could see here. So medial, just above this runs the superficial temporal artery and gives us different branches. So superficial temporal artery has branches like orbital branch and then middle temporal branch, posteriorly parietal branch, anteriorly frontal branch, and parotid branch, and it goes towards zygoma. It goes to zygomatic orbital branch. All the branches of superficial temporal artery in this region. And this is the mandible, and this is the coronoid process of the mandible. This is the condyloid process of the mandible. Okay. Coronoid process wherein the temporalis muscle is attached. Next, once again, if you take, so this is the maxillary tuberosity. So when you are giving an incision for this maxillectomy, so lift the upper lip and then you have to give tuberosity to tuberosity, one incision that is being done. So tuberosity to tuberosity, that is face lift incision. So you will be lifting the flap from here to here on the face. The incision is from tuberosity to tuberosity. So articulations is frontal, lacrimal, nasal, superiorly, inferiorly, medially is the ethmoid, opposite maxilla, inferior concha, palatine and vomer, and laterally is the zygomatic. There are 9 articulations of maxilla. So this is how we have already revised this maxilla, but I completed once again only for the sake of your advantage. So I think people have joined right now. Yes. Please communicate. I think people have joined right now. Yes, we are starting into the core of the subject, keeping all those things in mind. We already started this one also. So, but thing is that you have to, revise it because it is already left before. So 1%. So sinonasal tumors are 1% of all the cancers. They are the diverse group. That is, there are nearly 30 to 40 types of pathologies that are existing here. All types of pathologies can be seen here. Their sinonasal tract account for nearly 3% of head and neck. If you take head and neck as it is 3%. And lateral nasal wall cancers are the most common, that is nearly 45%. That is, half of them are lateral nasal wall cancers. Half of them are lateral nasal wall cancers. So maxillary sinus is the most common. So one is the lateral nasal wall, number 1. Second is the maxillary sinus. Third, uncertain. And fourth is ethmoid. And fifth is the frontal and sphenoid. This is the order of this one occurrence. Okay. So lateral nasal wall common than maxillary, common than ethmoids, common than frontal, common than sphenoid. The most common is these two only, lateral nasal wall and maxillary. So as you know, the anatomy of all these things, so superiorly there is different structures. Entrance, the vestibule, there will be squamous epithelium, stratified squamous epithelium. As you go up, the epithelium will be pseudo-stratified ciliated columnar epithelium. This is the important concept over here. Pseudo-stratified ciliated columnar epithelium will be there. Okay. And here it is the olfactory epithelium. So olfactory epithelium, wherein it gives us to something called as olfactory neuroblastoma or esthesioneuroblastoma. This is one important tumor that is there. Olfactory neuroblastoma or esthesioneuroblastoma. That you keep it in mind. So risk factors are exposure to dusts and chemicals, especially chemicals, other types of chemicals, lacquer paints, okay, radial dials, okay. So lacquer paints, radium paints, etc. All those things are more common. And wooden furniture, hardwood and softwood. So hardwood is leading to something called as adenocarcinoma. So hardwood is leading to adenocarcinoma and softwood is leading to squamous cell carcinoma. You should keep it in mind. So nickel, chromium, lacquer paints, radium paints, thorium dioxide, mineral oils, isopropyl oils, all these are leading to your cancers of the nose. So of course, very rare. And boot and shoe workers, that is leather, is also leading to leather industry. Leather industry is also good. And mustard gas is also associated with this. So especially hardwood workers and softwood workers, especially mahogany. Mahogany is one of the plants that is there in the Himalayas. Mahogany trees, especially they are having, in Himalayan belt they will be having hardwood workers, adenocarcinoma, especially in the males. Keep it in mind. Smoking is also there. Of course, foods like aflatoxins, as you know, and dust is also responsible. So radiation, viral causes and genetic causes are also there. We are not going to details of all those things. So chronic sinusitis leading to cancer is not a proved one. So chronic sinusitis and cancer are not related directly, but this cancer presents as chronic sinusitis picture only. The picture of presentation is clinical features of cancer are similar to rhinosinusitis, similar to rhinosinusitis only. So they seem to be similar like a sinusitis patient. So these are all the regions, as you know, frontals. So this is sphenoids, and this is the middle terminate, inferior terminate, middle terminate, superior terminate, sphenoid model recess, and this is the nasopharynx region, as you should know. So more common is the lateral nasal wall, and maxillary sinus are the most common. Number one is lateral nasal wall, next is maxillary sinus. So answers are more common here. So maxillary sinus, as you know, pyramidal cavity. Ethmoid sinus is just like this weighing machine. So the central one will be leading to perpendicular plate of ethmoid. Here will be the cribriform plate, and here will be the labyrinths that are there on either side. This will be the orbits. These will be the orbits. So these will be the orbits, and this will be the ethmoidal labyrinths. They call on either side ethmoidal labyrinths. So ethmoidal labyrinths are separated from the orbit by something called as lamina peperacea. What is the bone that is separating the orbit and the ethmoids is nothing but your lamina peperacea. Lamina peperacea. So from anterior cranial fossa, it is separated by something called as fovea ethmoidalis. The anterior cranial fossa is separated by fovea ethmoidalis, and this one is separated by lamina peperacea. So fovea ethmoidalis is separation from anterior cranial fossa. This is a fovea ethmoidalis. So as you could see, this is a cribriform plate. So for example, you should think that this is a fovea ethmoidalis. Next, you should know the infratemporal fossa. Infra is below, temporal fossa is temporal region. Okay, so this is the temporal region, as you should know. Then this is the infratemporal fossa. This is the infratemporal fossa. So it is an irregular cavity. It is medial to the zygomatic arch. So this is the zygomatic arch. It is medial to this one, zygomatic arch. Anteriorly, it is the posterior surface of the maxilla. This is the anterior boundary, which is the posterior surface of maxilla. Superiorly is the greater wing of sphenoid. Remember, Oscar, greater wing of sphenoid. Superior boundary is the greater wing of sphenoid. Under surface of the squamous temporal. This is also squamous temporal bone. Squamous temporal bone. So greater wing of sphenoid and squamous temporal bone. So superiorly is the greater wing of sphenoid number one and squamous temporal bone. So medially, it is the lateral pterygoid plate. Medial boundary of infratemporal fossa is lateral pterygoid plate. If you go medially, you have lateral pterygoid plate. Laterally is the ramus of the mandible. This is the ramus of the mandible that is present laterally. Laterally is the ramus of the mandible. Next, one more fossa called as pterygopalatine fossa. It is a triangular space. So, what is the shape of the pterygopalatine fossa? It is a triangular space. So, it is a triangular space. Pterygopalatine fossa. Pterygoid plates are related. Palatine plates are related, and fossa. It's not a foramen. Fossa is a narrow junction. The triangular space, as you could see here, is a pterygopalatine fossa at this particular point. It communicates with the nasal cavity by sphenopalatine foramen. So, pterygopalatine fossa communicates to the nasal cavity by sphenopalatine foramen. So medially, pterygopalatine fossa communicates to the sphenopalatine foramen, as I already told you. What are the boundaries? So what are the boundaries of the pterygopalatine fossa? Anteriorly is the superomedial aspect of the infratemporal fossa of the maxilla. Infratemporal surface of the maxilla. Superomedially, anterior is the superomedial part of maxilla. Anteriorly is the maxilla, you remember like that. And posteriorly is the pterygoid process and adjoining anterior surface of the greater wing of sphenoid. So posteriorly is the pterygoid process and adjoining lateral surface of the greater wing of sphenoid. So greater wing of sphenoid and pterygoid process is the posterior boundaries, as you could see. Anteriorly is the maxilla. Anteriorly is the maxilla, posterior pterygoid process and greater wing of sphenoid. And medially is the perpendicular plate of palatine bone and orbital and sphenoid process. So medial boundary of this pterygopalatine fossa is perpendicular plate of palatine bone. You could remember P. Okay, like SPV, P, perpendicular plate of palatine bone and orbital and sphenoid process of the palatine bone. These are all palatine bones. So we have got pterygopalatine fossa. One of the boundaries should be palatine bone. That will be the medial one. So the medial one will be the palatine bone. Laterally, it communicates to the pterygomaxillary fissure. Laterally, pterygomaxillary fissure. It goes towards the infratemporal fossa. Just a moment, please. Inferior part, the floor of the part of the floor is formed by pyramidal process of the palatine bone. So palatine bone is completely related to all these things. So you should have an idea what is a palatine bone. Palatine bone is something like if you go behind and see the nose, palatine bones are L-shaped like this. Palatine bones are L-shaped like this. So this is a horizontal plate and this is a perpendicular plate. So perpendicular plate is orbital process, palatine process, and they are going to have a connection with like this with the sphenoid. Okay. So these are the palatine bones. So within this you have got the pterygopalatine fossa. Is it or not? Next, you should know the this relations of anterior cranial fossa also to this sinuses. So this is the frontal crest, and this is the foramen cecum. Frontal crest and foramen cecum. Two FCs are there. This is the frontal crest, and this is the foramen cecum. And this is the cribriform plate of ethmoid, as everybody knows. Cribriform plate wherein the olfactory nose pass. This particular central one is called as the crista galli. Crista galli. Crista galli, wherein this, as you should know, this Park cerebri is connected there. And you have a jaws, jugum of sphenoid. This is the jugum of sphenoid, and this is the optic canal. This is the optic canal, as you should know, and this is the lesser wing of sphenoid, and as you should know, this is the greater wing of sphenoid, as you should know. This is the place where pituitary is present. Okay, so this is the place where optic canal, where optic, nerves will be going like this. Optic nerve will be going like this. So these are the anterior clinoid process, and this is the posterior clinoid process. You have a gross idea about these things. And this is the foramen rotundum for the maxillary division of the trigeminal nerve. So maxillary division of the trigeminal nerve. Rotundum is maxillary division of the trigeminal nerve. This is anterocranial process. This is the carotid groove for the passage of the carotid artery. So carotid artery will be passing medial to the lateral to the sphenoids like this. Okay, carotid groove. And this is foramen oval, so mandibular division, that is 5-3, male. So mandibular division, axillary meningeal artery, lesser petrosal nerve, emissary vein. So male through foramen oval. And foramen spinosum. So foramen spinosum, you should easily remember that it is middle meningeal artery. Foramen spinosum is middle meningeal artery. You should remember middle meningeal artery, foramen spinosum. And this is vascular groove for this particular middle meningeal artery, as you should know. This is the dorsum cellae. So this is the dorsum cellae. So frontal crest, foramen cecum, crista galli, okay, cribriform plate, jugum of sphenoid, and optic canal. This is the hypophyseal fossa, and posterior clinoid process, anterior clinoid process, and dorsum cella. This is the dorsum cella, and as you go behind, you have got the middle oblongata here. Okay, this passes for middle oblongata here, foramen magnum. Surgical anatomy, you should understand the local invasion of the tumors. So ethmoids and maxillary sinus are nearer to the orbits, as you should know that these are the orbits, and ethmoids will spread to the orbits, and then maxillary also may spread to the orbits like this. Okay, maxillary and ethmoid both can spread to the orbits. So roof of the frontal sinus, if you take, that is the roof of the frontal sinus is also thin, it can go to the orbit. So it is called as orbital invasion. So orbital invasion, should keep it in mind. Orbital invasion. Olfactory nerves, they pass through the cribriform plates. They can go for intracranial spread through foramen cecum, as we have seen. So as we have seen here, this is the frontal crest in foramen cecum. It can lead to intracranial spread. Lymphatic drainage is scanty. So anterior inferiorly, lymphatic drainage itself is scanty. The anterior inferiorly, it goes to the skin of the from the skin of the vestibule and nasal cavity. They go into facial nodes, parotid nodes, submandibular nodes, which are called the first echelon nodes. The nodes which are first involved is called as first echelon nodes. Try to have some idea about this oncology. So we are going to discuss oncology only in the coming classes, especially from my side. And then they go into upper deep cervical nodes, that is jugulodigastric nodes. So which are there at the level of your particular below and behind the angle of mandible. So jugulodigastric nodes. They are called as jugulodigastric nodes. So posterior part, that is their anterior to eustachian tube, they all drain into the retropharyngeal node. Retropharyngeal nodes, they are present in the Yeah, there's a power. So retropharyngeal nodes will be present at this particular point, wherein so behind the nasopharynx, this is the oropharynx and this is the laryngopharynx. Whatever the layers that are there over here, there is something called as retropharynx over here. Retropharyngeal nodes will be inaccessible for palpation. We cannot palpate these retropharyngeal nodes. These are inaccessible for palpation. So this is the most important point. And at the end of the day, they drain into the upper deep cervical. First one is first they go to retropharyngeal and then they go to upper deep cervical. So we'll be dealing about the retropharyngeal space over once we are into the spaces of Lytton. Spread is related to local spread. They fill the sinus. They breach the periosteum. They breach the perichondrium. They breach the dura. They temporarily, they are all fibroelastic structures, but at the end of the day, the tumor wins and breaches all these things. Anteriorly, they can spread into the anterior nasal wall. They can involve the canine fossa. They can involve the orbital floor, which is very thin and easily destroyable. So orbital involvement is very important. Orbit, whether it is involved or not during surgery, also you have a lot of plans here. So maxillary sinus, it can go lateral and inferior wall. It can go to the oral cavity. How can it spread? It is telling. It can go to gingiva. It can go to gingivolabial sulcus. It can loosen the teeth. And teeth loss will be there in maxillary sinus carcinomas. There can be ulcerations. There can be oroantral fistula. That is, maxillary sinus communicates with the oral cavity. And medial infrastructure, that is the nasal cavity. It may go to the nasal cavity also. So medially, the maxillary sinus may spread to the nasal. This is the nasal cavity. It can spread to the nasal cavity also. Posteriorly, posterolateral wall. As you know, that infratemporal fossa can be involved. And posterolateral is the infratemporal fossa. IT, posterolateral wall of the maxillary sinus, is nothing but your infratemporal fossa. And if it goes posteriorly, it is to the pterygopalatine fossa. Pterygopalatine fossa, pterygoid plates, and through pterygopalatine fossa, it can go to the foramen rotundum, and it can reach the middle cranial fossa. That's why I told you all those, all those relations. So through foramen rotundum, it can reach the middle cranial fossa. So rotundum is maxillary division of trigeminal nerve. Through the foramen rotundum, it can reach the middle cranial fossa. Through the pterygoid canal, it can go to the foramen lacerum. Through the pterygoid canal, it can go to the foramen lacerum. Through the spinopalatine foramen, it can reach the nasopharynx. Through the spinopalatine foramen, it can reach the nasopharynx. Through the pterygomaxillary fissure, it can reach the infratemporal fossa. If you take behind the maxillary sinus, there will be pterygopalatine fossa, as we have seen. So pterygopalatine fossa goes laterally, and it goes laterally through the pterygomaxillary fissure. It goes towards the infratemporal fossa. If you go lateral and lateral in the skull, so pterygopalatine fossa through pterygomaxillary fissure, it reaches the infratemporal fossa. Medially through spinopalatine foramen, it reaches the nasopharynx. So medially it reaches the nasopharynx, and laterally it reaches the infratemporal fossa. Through the infraorbital fissure, a fissure below the orbit, infraorbital fissure, it goes to the orbital apex. So orbital apex, dura, brain, these are all related to. So for stage 4, you can have it for stage 4. Orbital apex, dura, and brain are related to stage 4. We'll see how it spreads. Ethmoids can spread superiorly towards the anterior cranial fossa, medially, laterally towards the orbit, and inferiorly towards the nasal cavity, and it can spread to the maxillary sinus also. So ethmoidal tumors are rare. More common are the maxillary sinus. From ear to ear they can spread, or ear to ear they can spread. Frontal sinus, if it is spreading, it can spread into the frontal lobes of the brain, that is anterior cranial fossa. Anteriorly, it can go to the skin of the forehead, and inferiorly to the nasal cavity. Sphenoids, it can set. So if you take sphenoid sinuses like this, as you know that the cavernous sinuses are located like this, and this is the pituitary. Okay. So cavernous sinus, this is the pituitary, and then these are cavernous sinuses that can be affected. Laterally, it can go to cavernous sinus. This is sphenoid sinus. This is the cavernous sinus. Okay. Anteriorly, it can go to ethmoids or nasal cavity. Anything can be. So sphenoid sinus tumors are very rare. The lymphatic spread is 35% only. I told you it is submandibular glands and jugulodigastric lymph nodes at the end in the central tumors. The central tumors, they go to jugulodigastric lymph node. Distant spread, squamous cell carcinoma of the maxillary sinus, there is a 10% chances of distant spread. Adenocarcinoma is a hardwood. Because of hardwood, as I already told you, higher rate of distant spread. It is 18% chances are there. They can go for, you can remember LLB. Okay, or Vakil Saab LLB, that is lung, liver, and brain most commonly. Okay. There is something called as Holmgren's classification. Holmgren's classification, there is a line drawn from medial canthus to the angle of the mandible, very important. Medial canthus to angle of the mandible. If you draw a line like this, the cancers that are formed above are dangerous because nearer to the brain, and the one which is below are having good prognosis. They are farther to the brain. So this is the Ongren's classification. Very important 2 marks question. 2 marks question. Ongren's classification. There is something called as Liedermann's classification, which is having lines of Sibelius, lines of Sibelius, wherein below the orbit one line and below the magnetic sinus one line, and medial to the orbit one line here, medial to the these 9 quadrants are divided, wherein this is called as superstructure, this is called as mesostructure, and this is called as infrastructure. Okay. So these are having the worst prognosis, these are having medium prognosis, these are having the better prognosis. So these are very important as 2 marks questions. So 2 marks questions are nothing but your Liedermann's classification and Ongren's classification. Remember this two, Ongren's classification and Liedermann's classification. For your level, they will ask you. So how do you stage this? Okay. When it comes to northern paranasal sinuses, so wherein every time you get a tumor, you have to stage it. TX tumor cannot be staged. T0 no evidence. 0 is no evidence. TX is cannot be staged. 0 is no evidence. T is means carcinoma in situ. In situ, it has not breached the basement membrane in situ. Okay. So write it like TX, T is, and T0. These three are important. And for maxillary sinus, you have to remember individual like T1. What is T1 is limited to mucosa. It is limited to the mucosa only, and no erosion, no destruction of bone. T2 means bony erosion present and destruction present, including the hard palate, including the middle meatus, and except the extension into the posterior wall. If the tumor goes posteriorly, it is going into posteriorly. If it is going into T3. Posteriorly, it is a bone of posterior wall, T3, subcutaneous tissues, floor of medial wall of orbit, pterygoid fossa, and ethmoid sinus. So other sinus, if it is reaching, it is called as T3. So ethmoid sinus, if it is reaching, it is the T3, as you would remember. Tumor involves the posterior wall of the maxillary sinus, subcutaneous tissue, floor of the medial wall. So orbit it is going, it is T3. Ethmoid it is going, it is T3. Pterygoid fossa it is going, that is posteriorly, it is T3. Next. T4 is divided into 2 types always, T4A and T4B. T4A is mild, that is moderately advanced. See, other person is talking, kindly mute yourself. Kindly mute yourself, please. Moderately advanced local disease. T4 is mild. Hello. T4B is very advanced local disease, mild. So T4A is moderately advanced local disease. T4B is very advanced local disease. So T4A, it involves the anterior orbital contents, skin of the cheek, pterygoid plates. Hello. So tumor involves the anterior orbital contents, skin of the cheek, pterygoid plates, infratemporal fossa, cribriform plate, sphenoid, and frontal sinuses. So sphenoid and frontal sinuses are involved. It is T4A. So T4B is, I told you already, orbital apex, dura, brain, middle cranial fossa, cranial nerves other than trigeminal nerve V2, and nasopharynx and clivus. So this is all the involvement of your T4B. So T4B is orbital apex, dura, brain, middle cranial fossa, cranial nerves other than maxillary division, that is V2. V2 is not involved in this, and nasopharynx and clivus are also there here. T4A is moderately advanced local disease. T4B is very advanced local disease. So once again repeating, T4A, it involves anterior orbital contents, skin of cheeks, pterygoid plates, infratemporal fossa, cribriform plate, sphenoid and frontal. T4B is orbital apex, dura, brain, middle cranial fossa, cranial nerves, any other cranial nerves other than maxillary division of the trigeminal nerve, nasopharynx and clivus. So this is for the maxillary sinus staging. For nasal cavity and ethmoid sinuses, so tumor is restricted to one subsite is T1 without bony invasion. With or without bony invasion, one subsite is T1. Two subsides is T2. Very easy to remember. Single region extending to involve an adjacent region with naso-ethmoidal complex with or without bony invasion plus or minus can be there. So two subsides is T2, one subside is T1. T3 invades medial wall or floor of the orbit, the other sinus. Previously it was ethmoid sinus, now it is a maxillary sinus. Because it is ethmoid tumor, it is maxillary sinus now. So maxillary sinus, cribriform plate. Okay. T4 is mild. I already told you T4. You can write this as mild. T4A is mild. T4B is mild. Very advanced local disease. Okay. T4A is mild. That is involves anterior orbital content, same like before. Skin of the nose or cheek. Minimal extension into the anterior cranial fossa. Pterygoid plates involves T4A. Okay. Sphenoid or frontal sinuses. Other sinuses like sphenoid or frontal sinuses, it is T4A. So other sinus nearby maxillary sinus, it is T3. Sphenoid or frontal sinus is T4A. T4B is valve, which involves OA, orbital apex, dura, bone, middle cranial fossa. So anterior cranial fossa is T4A, middle cranial fossa is T4B, if you remember like this, okay? And cranial nerves other than V2, except V2 cranial nerves other than V2, and nasopharynx and clivus. This is already done, same thing, similar to that. For lymph nodes, because I'm telling you first time I'm taking the detailed. So next time when you get into other tumors, lymph nodes is similar for all except for the thyroid, okay, and salivary glands. So you can except for thyroid, okay, not salivary glands, except for thyroid, the lymph nodes are same. So NX is no regional lymph nodes, cannot be assessed. N0 is no regional lymph nodes. N1 is metastasis in single ipsilateral lymph nodes 3 centimeters. N2 is single ipsilateral lymph nodes 3 centimeters. N2A, N2B, N2C. These are written like this. N2A, B, C. So N2A is single ipsilateral. Okay, N2B. So single ipsilateral between 3 to 6. N2B. So multiple ipsilateral. So 3 to 6. N2C is bilateral or contralateral, that is 3 to 6. So size is same, 3 to 6 only. Single ipsilateral, multiple ipsilateral, and bilateral contralateral, A, B, C. Okay, N3 is more than 6 centimeters, greater than 6 centimeters. Anything is N3. You can remember just like that. Okay. These are the size of the lymph nodes. So normally the tumor node and metastasis. This is called as TNM classification for tumors. Okay. So Union International Prostate Cancer, okay, Center for Cancer, they classified our AJCC classification. This is AJCC classification, American Joint Committee on Cancers. Okay. So TNM classification you should do. Based on that, you should have just a moment. So you can remember it like this. So cancer has to be staged based on the treatment will be given. So once you take that into mind and classify these tumors, you can classify these as you could see, benign tumors of the nose like everted papilloma that is coming outside. There are more type called as inverted papilloma, which is a moderate tumor. Okay, inverted papilloma. This is everted papilloma. These are the papillomas that are there. Next, osteomas that are there, they are associated with Gardner syndrome. Chondroma, that is based on the cartilages, Fibrous dysplasias, these are also important. Fibrous dysplasias of the maxilla common. They are called ossifying fibromas. And there can be hemangiomas, that is capillary hemangiomas and cavernous hemangiomas. Capillary hemangiomas and cavernous hemangiomas. Capillary hemangiomas, they present as the bleeding polypus of the nasal septum. We should keep it in mind. Bleeding polyp of the nasal septum. Bleeding polyp of nasal septum. Bleeding polyp of nasal septum. Capillary hemangioma. Bleeding polyp of nasal septum. And other soft tissue tumors like leiomyoma and schwannoma. Schwannoma is a nerve sheath tumor. So capillary hemangioma, cavernous hemangioma. You should have it in mind. Capillary hemangioma and cavernous hemangioma. So as you could see, and those are important. So all these are treated by excision, so benign. Intermediate tumors, you have got the inverted papilloma. So inverted papilloma, you should have it in mind. So the important points that are given in the book I'm highlighting. So inverted papilloma, the other name is also called as Ringhertz tumor. Ringhertz tumor. Ringhertz tumor is also called as Schneiderian papilloma. Schneiderian papilloma. Schneiderian papilloma, or it is also called as transitional cell papilloma. Transitional cell papilloma. Transitional cell papilloma. So what happens is, in this, why it is called as inverted means, because Schneiderian membrane is the membrane of the nose. Schneiderian is a scientist who described the membrane of the nose. Instead of growing outwards, tumor grows outwards. So this is ulta. That is why it is called as inverted papilloma. This is an intermediate tumor. As you could see, more common is the lateral nasal wall. So it is very important for 2 marks question or 4 marks question. So lateral wall, it is more common, and as you could see that it can be there in the middle meatus also. Sometimes it grows in the middle meatus, sometimes it grows in the maxillary, frontal and sphenoid sinus also. Maxillary, frontal and sphenoid sinus also. It is associated with human papilloma virus. Human papilloma virus, and it can grow like a cauliflower growth. So papilloma is something like a wart. Okay, something like a wart. It can grow like a cauliflower. Cauliflower like watching growth can be there. So human papillomavirus is there, and men are more commonly affected. Men are more commonly affected. 40 to 70 years of age group is important. So these are all the textbook information only. I'm not saying anything outside. So you have to go for CT scan and MRI, and biopsy is needed for diagnosis. Biopsy is needed for diagnosis. Biopsy is needed for diagnosis, and you have to go for CT and MRI for diagnosis, and then you have to go for excision. So you can excise just endoscopically, or you can excise open methods by open methods. So more commonly nowadays, endoscopic excision is being done. Endoscopic excision is being done. So this is how, and most important point in this is, it is a pre-malignant condition. It can undergo malignant transformation. Undergo malignant transformation. Sometimes they seem to be benign and undergo malignant transformation. It can form a malignant tumor, and the recurrence is also there. Recurrence is also there. Sometimes you need to go for radiotherapy. Sometimes you need to go for radiotherapy. And cylindrical cell papilloma, hemangiopericytoma, meningioma, oncocytoma. So meningioma from meninges, oncocytoma. So all these things are there as intermediate tumors. And malignant tumors of the nose are basal cell carcinoma, squamous cell carcinoma. Basal cell carcinoma, as you know, it is called as rodent ulcer. As you know, Burroughs triangle. Okay, rodent ulcer, Burroughs triangle. Okay, rodent ulcer, Burroughs triangle. Minor salivary gland tumors. So minor salivary glands are present on the hard palate. So they are more commonly adenocarcinomas, as you could see, or adenoid cystic carcinomas. Very dangerous. Adenocarcinoma, glandular pattern, and sarcomas can be there, soft tissue tumor, and malignant melanomas of the face nearby the nose can be there. And the other thing is esthesioneuroblastoma. This is very important. Esthesioneuroblastoma or olfactory neuroblastoma. You should keep it in mind about the esthesioneuroblastoma or olfactory neuroblastoma. Few points of importance in this esthesioneuroblastoma. So it arises from the cribriform plate of the ethmoid. So this is the ethmoid. This is the cribriform plate where olfactory nerves come. So cribriform plate of the ethmoid wherein olfactory nerves will be coming. So it is called as olfactory neuroblastoma or esthesioneuroblastoma. So it is a tumor of neural crest cell origin. Neural crest cell. So something like neural crest cell origin. So from the olfactory placode it arises. From the olfactory placode it arises, and it has got a bimodal distribution. So early age there is one peak, and like Hodgkin's lymphoma, early age one thing, and late age also there is one more thing. So 10 to 20 years of age group is one peak, and then 50 years or to 60 years is one more peak. So it leads to nasal obstruction, as you know. So nasal cavity is obstructed, is a presenting feature, and it can lead to proptosis and headache also. Proptosis and headache. Proptosis and headache also can occur through this. So you need to go for endoscopic examination. You can see the cherry red polypoidal mass. Cherry red polypoidal mass. So cherry red polypoidal mass. Cherry red polypoidal mass in the case of your olfactory neuroblastoma. So CT scan and MRI are diagnostic, as you should know. Should know whether it is intracranially extending or not. Intracranial extension is there or not, you should be knowing. So biopsy leads to true nature of the tumor. So and no rosettes. So there is a low grade because I said it is neural crystal. There is a low pseudo rosette formation. Pseudo rosette formation in the pathology. Pseudo rosette formation in the pathology. It's all about the STC neuroblastoma. You should keep it in mind. Pseudo rosette formation in the pathology. And treatment is by craniofacial resection. Craniofacial. We will be seeing this craniofacial resection. Anyhow. So this is very important, and then you should have an idea about this STC neuroblastoma. People will be asking very commonly. Next, other tumors are lymphoreticular neoplasms, plasmacytomas, adenocarcinomas, and differentiated carcinomas. There can be malignant fibrous dysplasia, also like benign fibrous dysplasia, malignant fibrous dysplasia, and malignant neurogenous tumors. So I told you the most important things about this STC neuroblastoma and about your inverted papillomas. So these are very important. Don't worry about this classification. This is a PG level lecture, but I am showing you for just for the sake of showing, for understanding. Read your textbook, you'll be able to understand. Often the presentation is delayed because people think that it is rhinosinusitis. People think that it is rhinosinusitis only. So stuffiness, blocked nose, sinus obstruction. There can be bleeding or spotting, and sinus is filled, and then later erosion of the bones will be there. Facial pain. How the maxillary sinus presents facial pain, anesthesia of cheek because of the infraorbital nerve. Medial wall leads to epistaxis, epiphora because of nasolacrimal duct involvement. Posterior wall it leads to pterygoparietal fossa, infratemporal fossa, and trismus because of the muscles of mastication involved. Maxillary mandibular nerve deficits can be there. Inferiorly, there are loose molars and premolars. Teeth can be loose, ill-fit dentures, ulcers of the palate, of the buccal sulcus. Superiorly, there can be proptosis and diplopia. These can be the presenting things and superior spread. Anterolateral spread, there is a cheek swelling. Okay, anterolateral spread, there is a swelling in the cheek, as you could see. Ethmoid sinus presents with unilateral nasal obstruction and epistaxis. Epiphora, orbital swelling because it is in between the orbits, and proptosis will be there, diplopia will be there. Frontal sinus, there can be orbital symptoms. Sphenoids, there will be cavernous sinus involvement, diplopia, and facial pain. There can be there. Early asymptomatic phase, they are like rhinosinusitis only. Nasal symptoms like epistaxis, blood-stained discharge, nasal mass will be there. Eye symptoms like diplopia, proptosis, epiphora, diminished vision. Oral symptoms like mass, ulceration of the palate will be there. Upper gingival sulcus, gingival-buccal sulcus involvement, loosening of the teeth, ill-fitting dentures. There can be tinnitus and there can be swelling and ulceration of the face, as you could see the spread down towards the face. Endoscopy is helpful in the diagnosis, whether it is flexible or rigid, you have to see for early diagnosis. There can be proliferative growths or ulcerative growths. Proliferative is they are like cauliflower-like growths. Ulcerative growths is they are just like ulcers that are formed on the skin. And polypoidal reaction, there can be a polyp formation also. Polyp formation also be there, and it may not be diagnostic, of course. It can be a normal polyp also. CT and MRI must. Gadolinium contrast MRI is must, shows the flow voids. So extremely vascular tumor, they show the flow voids. The gadolinium MRI. Dural, cerebral, invasion, and accurate assessment of orbital invasion also has to be done. If MRI, if you take T2 weighted, the differential diagnosis of secretions, tumor, and mucosal thickening. Secretions, tumor, and mucosal thickening. Arteriography has to be done for embolization. If you are having a vascular tumor, you have to stop the blood vessels to the vascular tumors. If not, there will be bleeding during surgery. You have to go for embolization. You have to go for embolization. Embolization is very important. Embolization is very important. Nowadays, PET scan. So positron emission tomography is very important for metastasis. So CT scan, MRI, and PET scan. These are three things you can write. So the various images showing involvement of the left orbit and propulsion. There is the involvement. Axial CT scan showing the orbit and then involvement of axial sinus in the commands you could see here. Coronal CT scan, as you could see in the patient on the left side, these are the involvement, you could see it like this, and erosion of the orbital wall. Erosion is also there. So calcifications and erosions are features of your, bone involvement in tumors. Bone involvement in tumors. You can go for MRI, you can go for angiography studies also. Biopsy is a must. Sometimes there are bleeding tumors. What are the bleeders that are present? The olfactory neuroblastoma bleeds, melanoma also bleeds, meningioma also bleeds, and angiofibroma also bleeds. Angiofibroma is very important. We're going to discuss in the next class. Nasopharyngeal angiofibroma is a chapter by itself. Okay. Nasopharyngeal angiofibroma is a chapter by itself. So better take under GA, arrange 2 units of blood if you are planning for any excisional biopsy. 2 units of blood. 2 units of blood is very important because angio is related to blood vessel fibroma. If you are going here, angiofibroma, you should not do biopsy at all. You should be very careful. You have to go for surgery directly, and diagnosis by clinical features and by CT scan and MRI. Okay. So these will be bleeding. Careful during surgery. Okay. Sinus sample is a better one. How do you take sinus sample? A sinus is approached by using Caldwell-Luke approach. I already told you, Caldwell-Luke approach for sinus sample. Caldwell-Luke approach for sinus sample. You have to go for staging for the treatment purpose. Any tumor, you have to go for stage first. Okay, TNM classification, you have to go for it, and then staging has to be done. TNM classification, you have to go for it, and then staging. Whether it can be cured or only palliation possible. Palliation is just giving us some supportive care. Palliation is supportive care. Consent is very important. Sometimes if orbit is involved, eye has to be removed. Orbit is involved, eye has to be removed. Palliation is by local debulking, adjunctive radiotherapy, and experienced surgeons. So any cancer treatment, it involves surgical therapy, chemotherapy, and radiotherapy. South Central Railway, remember, surgery, chemotherapy, and radiotherapy. Surgery, chemo, and radio. Okay. Of which, so you have to, for later stages, you have to go for chemo and radio. For early stages, you can go for surgery. T1 and T2, you can just simply go for surgery. And T3 and T4, some T3 you can go for surgery, but T4, radiotherapy and chemotherapy are better. If needed, you have to go for surgery and then followed by chemo radiotherapy. Okay. Anything can be done for anyone, but you have to selectively take it. So you have to go for sometimes pre-operative radiotherapy itself. Post-operative radiotherapy itself. It decreases the size of the tumor, especially in adenoid cystic carcinoma and chondrosarcoma. Adenoid cystic carcinoma. This adenoid cystic carcinoma, it spreads through perineural spread. Remember, whenever you get adenoid cystic, you should say perineural spread. And chondrosarcoma also. Chemotherapy is good for squamous cell carcinoma. Adenocarcinoma, there is not going to affect. Squamous cell carcinoma, chemotherapy is okay. So olfactory neuroblastoma, rhabdomyosarcoma, lymphomas, neonatal carcinoma of unknown significance. So you can go for topical 5-fluorouracil. 5-fluorouracil, very important drug. Cisplatin and 5-fluorouracil are going to be given in head and neck cancers. Okay, head and neck cancer, 5-fluorouracil topical. Adenocarcinoma, which are extended to anterior maxillary antrostomy, lateral topical chemotherapy, and necrotomy. So adenocarcinoma, as we have seen, there is a little effect of chemotherapy. Not much of use in the chemotherapy. What are the contraindications to surgery? So based on stage and wishes of the patient should give consent. There will be definitely facial disfigurement, and poor health is a contraindication. So you have to go for the patient's consent also. Local invasion of anterior cranial fossa and skull base are no more. So anterior cranial fossa involved also you can do surgery. Skull base involved also you can do surgery. Nowadays we can go for this surgery even for this local invasion. So locally invasive, that is T4A, as I told you. Okay, minimally invasive local disease. Okay, minimal. So T4B is bad. So very distantly invasive is T4B. You cannot do surgery. T4A you can try for selective cases. Distant metastases are anyhow incurable, but you have to go for radiotherapy, chemotherapy. For facial skin involvement, you can go for excision and repair by flaps. Flap is with a blood supply. Okay, flap is a tissue with blood supply. Graft has no blood supply. Flap has blood supply. Radical surgery can be done by en bloc clearance for some tumors. Imaging is needed, that is CT-MRI, and transnasal debulking has to be done. So when you are giving a primary radiotherapy is given for 6 weeks, 60 grays, 6 weeks, later planned craniofacial resection. I already told you this word, craniofacial resection. Craniofacial resection, cranium face resection. Just remember these words. Once you remove the maxilla, you have to go for a prosthetic dentistry, that is done by oral maxillofacial surgeon. Partial resection, it can be sealed with obturator. Partial resection, something called as Gutta Parcha prosthesis. You can remember is Gutta Parcha. Gutta Parcha prosthesis. So prosthesis can be put in them. And otherwise, you can go for pre-composite flaps. Composite flaps also you can go for composite flap. Composite, it involves a muscle and a bone, and it can involve the blood vessel and related to skin. So all these things are involved. So you can put it there so that to close the defect. When you are removing anything in the tumor, as a tumor, removing the part of maxilla like maxillectomy, you have to close it with a technique, some technique with this, whether it is prosthesis or it is a real body parts only. So Brannemar system of titanium implants. Nowadays they are using the titanium implants for facial prosthesis. Titanium implants for facial prosthesis. So how do you stage stage grouping of subsets? So just simple like that. So T1, T2, T3, T4. You write like this: N0, N1, N2, N3. Because these are 4, these are 3 only. You have to write 0. So write 1, 2, 3, 4 here like this. 3, 3, 3 here like this, and rest all you write 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4. You can just read like this. So what is stage 4 disease? T4. So stage 4 is T4, N0, stage 4. Okay, and you can say stage 4 is T4, N1 is stage 4. Stage 4 once again is T4, N2 is stage 4. T3, N2 is stage 4. So T3, N3 is stage 4. T2, N2 is stage 4. T1, N1 is stage 4. So these are all stages. Okay, this is all 4 stage. Stage 4 is this one is stage 4. And these are all stage 3. As simple as that to remember. So T3 and N0 is stage 3. T3 and N1 is stage 3. T2 and N1 is stage 3. T1 and N1 is stage 3. And T2, N0 is stage 2. As you could see, T2, N0 is stage 2. As you could see it here. T1, N1, N0 is stage 1. So this is the stage. So this is how you remember this staging, group staging. You can take a photograph of this, and I will try to post a video of this. So how do you treat these maxillary sinus tumors? So T1, T2, and N0. Except adenoid cystic carcinoma, you can go for surgical resection. If margins are negative, you may not go for any adjuvant therapy. If perineural invasion is there, you go for CTRT. That is radiotherapy or chemotherapy, radiotherapy. Okay. If margins are possible, surgical resection is positive. If margins positive and surgical resection is positive, margins negative case, you can go for considered radiotherapy. Margins positive means you have to go for both CT and RT. Margins positive. So in T1 and T2 and N0, adenoid cystic carcinoma, you have to go for surgical resection and you have to go for radiotherapy only. So ACC, that is adenoid cystic carcinoma, you have to go for radiotherapy only. As I told you, T3 and T4B, these are all inoperable. Decrease in difficulty in doing the surgeries. T3 and N0, operable. T4A, all histologies. If there is chance for operable, T4A is moderately advanced local disease, I told you, is it or not? So it is very advanced local disease, T4B. Okay. T4B, if it is there, so you have to go for radiotherapy and chemotherapy or radiotherapy. This is the only option. You cannot go for surgery. Whereas T3, you can go for complete surgical excision. If margins are positive, extracapsular spread is positive, you have to go for chemotherapy and radiotherapy post-operatively. And to the primary and also the neck. So when you have got the tumor, you have to treat the primary and you have to also treat the neck nodes. So treat the primary and also treat the neck nodes. This is a bit higher for you, but I'm just telling the concept and not going details. So you have to treat the primary and neck nodes also. So if there are no adverse features in T3, you have to go for radiotherapy to the primary and neck for this particular squamous cell carcinoma and undifferentiated tumors. Nothing with T1, T2, you go for surgery. T3, T4, you go for radiotherapy and chemotherapy. You can just try it like that in your purview. So NET and N plus resectable, for example, highest grade of tumor, you have to go for surgical resection. You have to go address the neck that is related to the lymph nodes. You have to go for neck dissection. There is a terminology called as neck dissection. So adverse features like margins and extracapsular spread are there. You have to go for chemotherapy, radiotherapy. So if the tumor is beyond the margins and then extracapsular spread in the lymph nodes, you have to go for chemotherapy, radiotherapy. As simple as that. So ethmoid sinus tumors, how would you treat them? Newly diagnosed T1 and once again similar concepts. T1 and T2 surgery. If adverse features are there, add radiotherapy and chemotherapy. T3 and T4A resectable. T4A resectable, as you can see, you can go for surgery and radiotherapy if adverse effects are there. Unresectable tumors are there, you have to go for chemotherapy, radiotherapy directly. Diagnosed after incomplete resection, that is after polypectomy, endoscopic procedure with gross residual disease, you have to go for surgical resection completely and later on go for chemoradiotherapy. Diagnosed after incomplete resection, that is polypectomy, endoscopic procedure, no disease or no physical or in an endoscopy, you can go for radiotherapy. So if it is physically no disease is there, you can go for radiotherapy and surgery if disease is there. And adjuvant treatment is radiotherapy. They are as simple as that. T1 and T2 write down surgery, T3, T4 surgery associated with chemotherapy and radiotherapy. So when you are taking about the surgery aspects, you have to go for a landmarks. Okay, relationship of ethmoidal foramen. So you should have ethmoidal foramen, anterior lacrimal crest, anterior ethmoidal foramen with anterior ethmoidal artery, posterior ethmoidal foramen, posterior ethmoidal artery, and optic canal. These are separated by 24, 12, and 6 millimeters respectively. This is just a picture to easily remember. What are the various incisions? So this is the lateral rhinotomy incision, Moore and Michaux. Moore and Michaux incision. Moore and Michaux. Moore and Michaux incision. And this is the Weber-Ferguson incision. Okay, this is a Weber-Ferguson incision which you are going to see. So it runs in the particular, so in medial to the medial canthus, it will be there. So nasomaxillary groove, it runs like this and goes down, and then to the below the ali, it runs like this, and then on the philtrum, it runs till the level of upper lip. If you are extending it above the orbit, it is called as Lynch extension. Lynch extension. Weber-Ferguson with Lynch extension. If you are going subciliary below the orbit like this, it is called as subciliary extension. If you are going like this, subciliary and superciliary, and something called Weber Differbatch, D-I-E-F-E-R, Differbatch incision, Weber Differbatch incision. Weber Ferguson incision is very important. They will be asking about Kuma's question. Last question is Weber-Ferguson incision. What for it is done? To do maxillectomy, you do this incision. To do maxillectomy. So bicoronal, if you have got anterior cranial fossa, if you have to go bicoronal incision, you have to lift the flap down like this and separate it and go till this level, and then open the this region and then do surgery here. For especially in the case of Wolbachia neuroblastomas and anterior cranial fossa tumors. What is the solution that is used is a Moffat solution. So 10% cocaine, 2 ml, 0.9% bicarbonate, 1 ml, and 1 in 1000 adrenaline, 2 ml. So 0.10% cocaine, 2 ml, 0.9% bicarbonate, 1 ml, and 1 in 1000 adrenaline, 2 ml. What are the things that are there you can do? So I told you bicoronal incision is given like this. So we are going to run a bit faster over here so that we have to know. These are not in-depth required for you people. So for ethmoid, you need to go for medial maxillectomy. You can go endoscopically also. You can go lateral rhinotomy incision. This is a lateral rhinotomy incision if you put it like this. So this is tuberosity to tuberosity you will be giving. So this is something incision which is given in the case of mid-facial degloving. Mid-facial degloving. Mid-facial degloving. Okay. So mid-facial degloving. We are just going to introduction of this and maxillary ethmoid. Next class we'll be completing this one. So maxillary ethmoid tumors, you have to go for maxilloethmoidectomy via Weber-Ferguson incision transmandibular approach. You may go for Weber-Ferguson approach or transmandibular approach. Ethmoid and maxilla with orbit is involved. If orbit is involved, you have to go for orbital exenteration. Just a word, orbit is involved, orbital exenteration. Intracranially, if it is going, you have to go for craniofacial resection. So the complexity is increasing. Just maxilla and ethmoid, maxillary ethmoidectomy via Weber-Ferguson or mandible. Transmandibular is you split the mandible and then you go here. ethmoidal or maxilla, you go for orbital exenteration with orbit is involved. Intracranial extension, you go for craniofacial resection. Intracranial extension, you go for craniofacial. The words are important here. So we are going to go for this particular extent of resection and all in the next class. I think we have to complete the class to right now here. So these are the things that are there. We'll end the class here. Hello, madam. Yeah, deal. So I think you understood the concept of tumors. Read in the textbook, you'll be able to understand. Okay. Hello.
Yes, sir.
We're ending this class right now. Thank you very much. Next class is ready. Dr. Kalyan, pediatrics.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, all the best. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.